Hello and welcome to WOR. We are at the Chinese Grand Prix for round 12. Sorry, round 12 of season 14. We have not been to China since season 11, and that was back when it was Ronha versus Shadow for the championship. It was round 3 back then, and Shadow took the victory on the day. But I am joined this week again by Ryan. Ryan, welcome along for the Chinese Grand Prix, and good to have you back.
Back, that one-off race at Imola was nice to shake off the cobwebs, but it's better to be back in the commentary box. I'll tell you that now. China's a very, very interesting track. We saw in the WR LD competition, with the teams. It was quite an interesting race with, the weather playing a big factor into that race. So let's see, could the rain possibly have an effect on this championship here today? Because obviously we've got a big story to tell, with the likes of Wilson and Smokey and obviously Rusty all keen to, add themselves to the history books.
Yeah, it's a big one, and we're looking at the standings as we speak, and it's Smokey that's leading the way, and some people probably think it should be Rusty after those two missed races earlier on in the season. Only 44 points behind PSR Smokey, but he is currently sat third in this championship overall, but Smokey doing a fantastic job. 30 points behind Smokey is Wilson. Sider in fourth there with 109 points, 46 points behind Smokey. Sav, though, after his victory last time out at Imola, has staked a claim that he's still able to win this championship. 3 races remaining, 63 points. It's still a possibility for Sav, though it's a massive outside possibility.
Yeah, he'll need a miracle, I'd say, if he was going to be able to win this championship. It'd be like winning the lottery if Sav was able to win this championship. You don't probably have to win every round realistically and hope that, Smokey, Wilson, and Rusty all DNF'd. Because could you imagine that story, though, if Sav was able to win on the final race? That'd be quite an incredible story, considering the season he's had as well. It's not been an easy one, but, if you can catch your mind, obviously, back to Abu Dhabi, me and James were talking about how that round could have had such a big impact on the championship. Rusty getting involved in a few incidents, it was Cypher and Wilson's taken a huge effect from this. And, at Imola as well last week, let's not forget, he crashed out and he managed to recover to P10, and that could be such a huge point in this championship.
We'll have to wait and see. And looking at who's actually on track, there is no way Sav can win this because he's not racing tonight. So unless there's a massive points deduction to all these drivers. But let us get on to track and have a look at how things are panning out. We're on board with Jensen, and Jensen, when he last raced here in WOR in Season 11 on the PlayStation side of things, he's finished P5. So he's going to try his best to do better, but it's not been his season really, Jensen. He's struggled a little bit. I say a little bit. He's struggled with, other drivers and getting involved in incidents that are not necessarily his fault. I mean, that is a large number of DNFs to his name. That's 6 DNFs this season, and only one driver has as many DNFs. And funnily enough, that's his teammate, Shizou Tom.
Yeah, Jensen and Tom, they have had such a nightmare of a season. I think Tom's been even more unlucky than Jensen. Remember the first few rounds, he was just DNFing. And Brazil, remember it was one of the first few rounds, and he just crashed in the straight line because obviously there's a bit of contact, I believe it was with Sav. And, those two have just had one of the worst seasons, I think, in WR history. For Tier 1 as well, I think it's gone down as one of the worst ever. I think it's been an unfortunate partnership for the two guys on the PS side of this crossplay championship, and I think they'll just be looking to get this season over with sooner rather than later.
Yeah, not ideal for them at all. And looking through the rest of the grid that's been here back, and there's go PSR Nick. He's top of the timing board at the moment. But the drivers that were involved that are here tonight in Season 11, Round 3. Wilson did not start. Rusty DNF'd back in the days when he was WR. Matthew, PSR Fern. I don't think PSR Fern's here tonight. He DNS. He didn't start in his and I think he was back in tier 4 back then. And looking through it all, I mean, Ryan, I don't. I'm sorry to bring this up, but even yourself DNF'd in this one back there as well. It's a difficult track, China, to get right. There's so many points where you can spin. Marcador's going through one of them now, and that's I think turn 6 and 7. It's so difficult to constantly have that foot flat to the power and keep it on the track.
Yeah, it really is. What I noticed is always the setup. I certainly struggled to ever get the setup right around here, because you really want to have a good straight line speed setup, because obviously the long straight, but also you need good cornering as well for a lot of these corners. So you have to try and find a perfect balance, because if you go too high on the downforce, you'll lose out on the straight and you'll just be a sitting duck on the straights every single time. But if you go in the lower the downforce, you tend to breeze past people, but then you struggle in the corners. So that's certainly where I struggle, and I think that's where if you find that perfect balance, you can really get it hooked up around here. But also traction can be a real nightmare at certain parts of the corners on this track. That's why you might see the pad drivers certainly seem to become a lot quicker around this circuit. China, it's always been a favorite of the pad drivers, due to the traction, maybe just slightly benefiting the pads. But it seems to me this is like the closest we get between pad and wheel users, really been like equal in that sense, to really have that close competition. And that's why you're seeing Shazoo Venom and Bourbon Boy in P3 and P4.
Yeah, cracking stuff from that. I didn't even notice Bourbon Boy in here, so it's great to see him back racing in the top tier of WOR. A little bit of a fan favourite through some of the viewers here. And Scyther then putting himself into P2. But look at that. P2 to 4, 31-7, 31-7, 31-7. And P5 with PSR Wilson, 31-7. It is incredibly close at this moment in time. Someone that hasn't yet to set a lap time is V-Sierra. Let's see what he can do as well. And one last little bit of stats about China. Back from my first season in WOR. As a commentator, and that was Humperdinck winning tier 3, coming third in the tier 3 race, which he won the championship in the end. There we go. That's me out of stats for China for WOR. It's not a very a very used track in calendars throughout any leagues really, but that's because of everything you've said. I think, Ryan, to be perfectly honest, is there is the difficulties through it all. It's got the longest straight on the calendar, hasn't it, as well, from turns 13 to 14, and that can sometimes be a little bit of an off-putting for some of these drivers.
Yeah, definitely, and also the ERS as well. It seems this is going to be a key thing here tonight. How well these drivers will manage their ERS, because if they go all guns blazing too early on, they'll definitely be quite vulnerable towards the end, because you don't seem to get the battery back as quick as you may like around other tracks. But another driver we've obviously, like you briefly just mentioned earlier, is V-Sierra. On board with him now. I think we're just going to keep a close eye on him, because he could have a really good round race here tonight around China, because definitely he's picked up some good results. He picked up a great result at Abu Dhabi, and people really did not expect it. And oh my goodness me, Smokey has been disqualified for blocking the pit lane. Wow, he'll be starting last. That's incredible.
That is not something you see every day. And Smokey needed all the help he could get to keep ahead of these drivers. He's got that 30-point buffer, but if things go Smokey, Rusty or Scyther's way, he's in massive, massive trouble. If they finish 1, 2 and 3 and he finishes outside the points, his lead has been, destroyed.
Yeah, well, that tweet from the WR Twitter account saying he could win this championship here tonight, I think that's really gone out of the window now, because there is no hope for Smokey to pull off a victory. That is for sure. Around here, it's going to be very, very challenging, and to get through this traffic, he's got a big task on his hands now. From P20 all the way, this is going to be a long, long race of Smokey. He's going to have to be aggressive, but he's also going to have a very good strategy on his hands. And there we go, Syra going up into P3! Another 131.7.
This is going to be crazy. Looking at the chat, Smokey is a little bit aggrieved by this one. So we got a little bit of information. And he was waiting at the end of the pit lane, so he didn't block anyone getting out of the pit lane. I mean, this is the problem with this track as well. The pit lane exit is right onto the racing line of turn 1.
Yeah, that's he's not a happy man. He's definitely going to be asking for a restart, but at the same time, it's your responsibility, you know, to be checking about your other surroundings, and maybe you should have checked on the track map about when these cars are coming out, and he could have obviously gone to the left-hand side, or, you know, he could have gone on the inside. There's all these things Smokey could have done, but you know, these are things which can cost you the championship dearly, and these are mistakes you can't afford to make as a championship leader. But I'll tell you who will be happy. It'll be all of his championship rivals. Wilson will be over the moon about that, knowing that he doesn't have to worry. Cypher certainly in P2 at the minute will be very, very happy. But we've also got to keep in mind, you know, remember last season, Nick, towards the end, and oh my goodness, there we go, Rusty setting the fastest lap of qualifying so far now, 131.611. But if you can catch your mind back to last season towards the end, remember when Nick decided to get involved in the towards the end of the championship? You know, he started to win races. Could, you know, maybe Nick do Smokey a favour here tonight by maybe causing some trouble and really just, you know, costing some points for the likes of Wilson, Cypher and Rusty in this championship fight?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for Nick. What can he do to help? But who would you help? There's another at the exit of turn 10, or entry of turn 10 on this occasion. There's another driver that has lost it. A minute ago we saw Venom lose it, and I think we saw an Alpine just lose it there. Wilson setting the fastest middle sector. But going back to the point that I was going to say, who does PSR Nick help? Does he help PSR Wilson, or does he help PSR Smokey?
I think he's got to be a neutral in this, because, you know, I got the privilege to hear all the conversations last week. Obviously, I'm part of PSR, so I get to hear what goes down, and being in their party last week, you know, they don't do any team stuff. They don't, you know, team up in this. They're all, you know, thinking of each other, because we had a situation where, you know, Choco was holding up both Cypher and myself, and, you know, he just did not let us by. He let me go in the end because he was definitely struggling, but he wouldn't let Cypher go. So if you think that any of them are going to help each other, you're probably going to think wrong, because, you know, and there we go, Choco going up into P2 now. So that's a very good lap. 1,000th, by the way, 1,000th slower than Rusty. This is incredible qualifying so far.
5 minutes left remaining, and Cider decides to go 1,000th quicker than Rusty. What are we witnessing here tonight? This is incredibly close. I said about the 131.7s a minute ago. The 131.6s are even closer still. Choco will be somehow really frustrated that he hasn't got pole here, provisional pole. He's set a wonderful lap. Yet Cyther and Rusty are just agonisingly out of his reach.
I've not seen that in a long, long time. I don't think I've ever seen it like that before, where it's just like so perfectly synced for 1, 2, 3. And this is unbelievable margins, and that just shows you how close this grid is. And it's really fascinating to see. You know, that's literally just slightly going the power, you know, just ever so slightly wrong, and you've lost 1,000th, and it's that close. One little mistake and you're down 5 positions, or you're up 5 positions. This is one of the closest qualifyings of this season.
This is incredible. 4 minutes left. Dezo F1, or let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can calm us down a little bit. Visa Syra is on a track as well. Should be for his last, well, his one and only run, and I'm still, we've had a lot of entertainment here in qualifying. We've had Smokey disqualified for blocking the pit lane. We've had a incredibly close amount of drivers in the 131.7s, but nothing beats our top 3 at the moment. The only thing that could beat it is if all 3 drivers are on a 131.610. But Dezo F1 is going to start his lap time coming through turns 1, 2 and 3 and 4. It's kind of like a smooth motion, this first sector, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's really satisfying once you get it hooked up once the front end bites and you just stay nice and tight, but you also carry that speed through those first 2 corners. It is really, really satisfying, and that's a purple first sector for Dezo. And if we've seen that throughout this qualifying session, I don't think that really means too much, because it could be purple in the first sector, but then you could lose a little bit of time through this middle sector, and this is you can really lose the rear end here, and that can really cost you a lot of time. And there you go, it just snapped on him just there, caught it quite nicely, and there we go. He's going to slowly go on the power through here. So easy for the drivers to lose the rear end, but it's really such a technical track through that middle sector is China. And there we go, and then this long double right-hander through turns 12 and 13, and this is where it gets on my nerves a little bit, getting on the power through here. You have to wait so long before you can finally get the power down, and then down to this main straight to turn 14, and it's a long wait, but yeah, it's been a smooth lap so far from Dezo.
Yeah, it's been smooth. It's been that just one little bit of a slippery moment, I should say, through the end of the second sector. But you're saying about turn 13 and where you're putting the power down, and there goes Dezo into 4th place with another 1:31.6, just ahead of Nick. Let's see what Sirat can do. Let's go on board with him as he's finishing his lap. But do you think that, the turns 12, 13, the little bit of a banker where you're waiting so long to put the power down could be a problem for Smokey tonight?
Yeah, it could, because he could be getting frustrated behind, the guys in front of him, and he'll be wanting to get on that power a bit early, finding some small margin to get on that power ever so slightly earlier, and he could spin. And I think we won't be surprised. I would not be surprised if we see any spins around there tonight, because, being in that dirty air and being ever so, slightly frustrated behind someone, people will become impatient, and I think you'll see mistakes start to creep in from a few drivers. So don't be surprised if you see some spins from drivers. Obviously, in this qualifying, we've obviously seen a few already. So just keep that in mind. There could be a few mistakes from some drivers out here.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how it all pans out. I wonder if Dezo crashed at the exit of turn 6, or whether it was a retirement on track. I don't think we'll ever know. I did try and get on board with Josham in time, but I don't think it was available, unfortunately, to see. And let's see what this Williams driver can do. Currently P17, a 32 dead. He's, to be honest, not that far off the pole sitter of Scyther at the moment. But, 0.4 of a second, it's mental, isn't it? Between 1st and 18th place.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the closest qualifyings I think we've ever seen. And one driver who's flying at the minute is Nick. He's set a purple middle sector, nearly a 10th up. So this could be good enough for provisional pole. Let's stick on board with this McLaren, because it's going to be very, very close towards the final few corners. Jensen!
No way!
No! This is unbelievable stuff. Go on board with Nick now, coming through the final corner. Let's see what Nick can do. Can he go 1,000 quicker? He can beat that massively by nearly 2.5 tenths. But my, what a lap that was from Nick.
What a way to end this qualifying. Rusty goes pole, provisionally. What can Scyther do? Choco's in there as well. There's a Ferrari coming up to the line. There is so much to do, but that was an incredible set of lap times there. Let's see what Scyther can do. He's heading now into the hairpin of 14. Lots of incidents have happened here in the past in F1 in general, and let's see if it will happen tonight. But Scyther, he's got a Red Bull in front of him. That'll be PSL Wilson who's going to set a lap time. These two so close together. How is it going to pan down? Wilson crosses the line first and doesn't improve, but Scyther goes into P4. Wilson is not in the ideal place at all for him. What else have we got going on board? It's WOR. I have no idea how to pronounce that, and that is in 17th place. But wow, what an end to qualifying we've had there.
It's incredible. I thought we were waiting for the drivers just going to have a laugh at us there. I thought they were all going to just do that thing again where they all start to improve by 1,000th, and we were just going to tumble it down again. But, it wasn't to be. But what a way to end qualifying. Rusty doing everything in his power to, put that pressure on Smokey now. And Wilson has got the biggest task on his hands, because he really needs to capitalise on Smokey starting from last. And that's a big opportunity wasted, I think, here from Wilson. But we've got to remember he is one of the quickest when it comes to the race. So let's keep in mind what he might be able to do. But keep a close eye on Nick and Choco, because I think they're going to get involved in this championship fight, and it could get very, very feisty.
This is nuts. I just hope that the most exciting bit about this race isn't the qualifying where we saw 4 drivers separated by 0.004 of a second, because.
Yeah.
I mean, if it is, I will still be a happy man, because that is incredible. Wilson might have a little bit of an issue. It's an interesting one, that, and I hope we don't. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But provisionally, Rusty is on pole with Nick in second place. Third place to Choco. Fourth to Scyther. Venom in fifth. Sixth, Stefano. Seventh to Jensen. Bourbon Boy in eighth. Ninth to Fabi and Dezo F1, who set a quality lap time in the end, managing only 10th place. Then there's Wilson, Sierra, Max, Axe, Markados, Jabraka, Nahami, Jochum, Jerry Van Bussel, and Smokey rounding it all out. And wow, this is nuts, because I think we're going to get a restart.
Yeah, it's going to be a lobby restart, because Syra is apparently invisible to the whole grid. So, yeah, that's another interesting thing from Codemasters, but here we are. So, and that is why Wilson actually failed to improve. He was spun into turn 1, apparently. So that was why he was not able to improve his final run, because he was taken out by a decent Syra who was not on his screen, and Syra, I think, wasn't on Wilson's screen. So, yeah, that was quite an interesting experience right there.
It's such a shame, because apparently we're going to get rain at the end of the race as well. Wow. So, I mean, is this meaning we're having to redo the whole of qualifying? Is this where we're going?
Hopefully not. I think they're just going to go off the grid, what it is, and I think well, it would be interesting if they did a one-shot qualifying now, but I don't think they'll do that, because I think it'd be a bit too unfair on the drivers that put in a good represented lap time at the end there. So, yeah, it seems to me that it's just going to be a simple restart, simple grid form. I think Smokey will be the most good about this, because I think if there's anybody who was hoping for a lobby restart earlier on, it would have been Smokey. But fortunately, this time it's just going to be a simple restart.
Yeah, it's a shame, but time is not, well, I don't want to say against us, but time is against the drivers getting everything ready and sorted in time. And obviously, you've been in this position before where you've got yourself into the zone, qualifying, something like this happens, you kind of lose that mentality, and then you've got to bring yourself back into it in the race. How difficult is it for some of these drivers, especially some of the ones that, the like of Smokey, who's not had the best of qualifying, obviously because of his disqualification. You've got to get yourself. You've already had that break, and now you've got to continue to try and be in the zone when you've had very little running on track.
Yeah, it's challenging, but it also shows if you can really just handle it, because when you have such a long break, and if you can just hit the ground running straight away, shows you're really up for it, and shows you put in the practice as well. So, yeah, I'm surprised with if anybody isn't able to adapt to obviously this break, because obviously once you get in that flow, getting the rhythm, having a bit of a break can ruin that. But I think they'll be fine. I think they've raced so many times around this track in time trial and doing the practice lobbies. I think that the break will just be a nice little reset, if anything, and can let them cool off a little bit, and their mistakes maybe in qualifying, which cost them, they can just forget about that now. Instead of worrying about that into the race, they can put that behind them and really just focus on making amends in the race now.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It could help. It might. It might actually hinder some of these drivers. We'll wait and see, and hopefully we will get ourselves back into this lobby pretty quickly and back racing, so you guys can get to see some action very, very quickly. But I mean, looking at how things are, if Rusty being on pole, Wilson right in the middle of the pack, and Smokey at the end, they're your three main protagonists right now, though we can't count Outsider, who is pretty much in between Rusty and Wilson. You couldn't have asked for a better setup for this race, really, could you?
No, you couldn't, because it's all going to kick off in this championship now. Because I think, I said Abu Dhabi could have been such a big talking point for the championship and a turning point. This could be even bigger than Abu Dhabi, because I think you're going to see aggression like no other from Smokey here. He will not want to give up that lead he has over, Wilson and Rusty. When you've built such a big gap of over 20 points to Wilson, you can't afford to give a driver an inch like Wilson any opportunity to get back, because he will punish you. So I'm intrigued to see what Wilson will be able to do, but I'm also going to keep a close eye on Smokey, because if there's going to be aggression, it's definitely going to be coming from him. But we saw at Abu Dhabi as well. When the turntables were turned, Rusty was able to defend and really cause problems for his championship rivals. So, he's on pole. The question is, will he be able to keep that pole position and hang on to the lead?
And, we saw it in Abu Dhabi, or you saw it in Abu Dhabi, I saw it in Imola, the championship changing so mentally in the last few laps because of everything that went on. Wilson obviously getting some of these drivers will be so frustrated, because it's a few weeks in a row where they've not had their best of lucks.
Yeah, that's it. It's just, I think sometimes you just get that luck, but also other times you get really unfortunate with it. And we saw Smokey was able to hold on. He actually did get a bit of wing damage, by the way, at Imola, and he somehow was able to hold on to that podium, I believe it was in the end, or is at least fourth place, if I'm not wrong. But then Rusty took a big points effect from it, because obviously he got spun around, and there was big drama towards the end. So it can change just like the snap of your fingers. The championship, it can always turn around. So it's intriguing to say the least, how it can all change so quickly. But I do wonder, if any of these drivers will be able to get a little bit more luck here tonight. I think Choco as well, keep a close eye on him. Syra will obviously now be a close eye for a lot of these drivers on track because of the reported desync issues. But, these pad drivers have definitely got a good chance here tonight to pick up some good points, and maybe even shock a few podiums on there. Bourbon Boy will be a close one to watch, and Venom as well. So keep a close eye on those guys, because I think they might be able to cause a few surprises.
I think something else, for Rusty especially right now, he's going to want to be able to keep Bourbon Boy, Venom behind him. He will want to be leading this race, keeping those guys behind and using them as buffers for everyone else. Because if he's got those two there, everyone else will find it difficult to overtake, from my understanding. And you know what? That's probably going to be Rusty's best chance of throwing himself back into the title chance. You look at it, a win, 25 points, that brings him 19 points to Smokey if Smokey doesn't finish in the points. That, with 2 rounds remaining, is massively anyone's games.
Yeah, exactly. So this is such a big round for Rusty. I think, before this, if Smokey qualified, second or third, say, I think, Rusty would just be hoping for a little bit of carnage. Maybe he'd do some of those tactics he did in Abu Dhabi, try and back him up into the pack and maybe force some errors. But now he's really got to capitalise on this. He cannot afford for this to really slip up this opportunity, because, if you want to win this championship, champions are made when they are able to capitalise on other people making mistakes. So this is such a huge opportunity for him now, to really close down that gap and really put the pressure on Smokey. With after this one, only 2 rounds left to go.
So yeah, time is, well, very much ticking for the lobby being ready, and hopefully very, very shortly we will be back racing. Well, for the race, time will definitely tell on that one. But looking at it, I haven't had a chance to ask you because of it. Well, usually it's literally giving you a couple of seconds to decide. But who's going to win this one, Brian?
It's not easier now. We don't have to quickly ramble through it, but yeah, I think I'll go with a bold prediction since there's going to be a bit of rain towards the end. But I do think it's going to be. I've got a feeling it's going to be Nick. I think Nick's going to win it here tonight. I think just judging by his pace and qualifying, and his overall pace when it comes to the race as well. When we've seen Nick on form, he is one of the quickest drivers on Xbox. And remember last season when he was challenging Otis towards the end of that season. So let's keep in mind, I think Nick will probably win. But I wouldn't be surprised if Rusty's able to hold on. But it all depends, with the rain hitting, but also in terms of how aggressive everybody will be around him as well. Because don't forget, Cypher's right behind as well, and he needs some big points. It's a win would do him huge favors for him to get back in this championship fight. We could have a massive final 2 rounds on our hand here if things go the right way for both Cypher and Rusty.
Obviously, best case scenario for Smokey is for it all to go tits up for everyone else and he goes and takes victory. But apart from that, what is best case scenario for Smokey tonight in a realistic world?
Case scenario, that's definitely. I think best case scenario is both Cypher and Rusty not getting on the podium. If they both, just score points in the midfield, like P8, P7, I think that'd be a very, very good result for Smokey. Realistically, the worst I can see Rusty finishing is P4, and Cypher probably P6. I really don't see them dropping back too far here tonight because this track is quite heavily a DRS train. So, but if you're Smokey, you're hoping that they both, get involved in some incidents and really drop down the order. But realistically, it's just going to be damage limitation for Smokey. Try and get his way through the field and maybe just hope for a miracle. And I think as well, he should just try and keep himself out of trouble because on this opening few laps, I think a lot of drivers will be going for some aggressive moves, and I think he should be able and ready to pick people off one by one.
Right then, we'll be starting very, very shortly. So let's get ourselves into a little bit of action with this Williams advert. Well, we were hoping to get ourselves back underway, but the starting screen is on. I don't know if we are going to be restarted or what is happening. But 11 seconds until lights out, Ryan. And I tell you what, let's see. Well, let's act like this is going to be a proper start here in WOR with a few drivers missing. There's a few ghosted cars there. We're on 3, 4, 5 red lights here in Shanghai. Are we going to get a good start to this Grand Prix? It looks like a pretty solid one from the McLaren of Nick alongside Rusty. Let's see how that's going. But just behind, it's Choco, who's had an absolute incredible start to this Grand Prix. He's already battling away, but however, there's a little bit of desync because he's on top of the McLaren. But there comes Venom attacking Nick. This is all surely going in Rusty's favour.
It's the start that Rusty wanted and needed, and there we go. Wilson's got a flying start though. He's up to 9th already from P11. Is he going to go even further? Is he going to go for a dive on Bourbon Boy? No, he thinks better off it. Keeping out in trouble, but he's going to lose the position back to Fabi. Back down his inside, but the traction he gets off that corner was marvellous, and he keeps in front of the Mercedes. But it is all kicking off. Smokey already up 6 positions, and that's the start. He was just that was the start he was after.
Big moment. PSR, Nick and Venom have come together. That's even better news for the likes of Wilson and Smokey. We have Jerry Van Bussel's up places as well. A lot of drive. Well, there's a lot going on, but PSR Nick is going to be really frustrated with that one. Sierra being passed by his teammate. Battling away side by side, the AlphaTauris around turns 12 into 13. Let's look at it from Sierra's point of view. His teammates just sat behind him. In the background, you've got Smokey and Markados battling away. And all of a sudden, the straight line speed of Sierra is incredible. But look in the background, Markados is attacking Smokey. The championship leader's in trouble, but Sierra is being attacked by his teammate. There's no team orders in AlphaTauri at the moment.
Yes, and I told you this first lap would be quite a little bit of carnage, and it has delivered already. And there we go, Fabi getting all out of shape. That's Syra going through, and will Jerry follow through? Let's see the AlphaTauri go to the left-hand side, not to the inside. Gonna go round the outside of the Mercedes, gonna brake later and try and carry that momentum. He'll have the inside line for turn 2 if he's able to pull it off. Fabi's got a better, tighter line. He's going to try and shut the door, and he turns it on him as well. And Jerry will not be happy about that one. And is that Markadoff? He's going to go around the outside. He getting shoved onto the curb here. It's side by side once again. And oh my goodness me, that's nearly contact. And oh my god, it's free one. Oh my goodness me, he's been spun round. And that's Smokey into the point. My oh my, he has taken my advice. Absolutely perfectly there. He's up into P10, and oh my goodness me, Fabi's been spun round.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is some intriguing driving is the best way to describe it. Let's have a look at Bourbon Boy, who's trying to hold off the Red Bull of PSR Wilson. This is incredible throughout as well. Jensen up into P3. Choco has a chance of winning this Grand Prix. He's all over the back of Rusty. No DRS available yet to their to the driver, but Sierra attacking TF Max. I tell you what, Sierra's straight line speed is absolutely insane. He has just gone past like there was no car there.
Yeah, it is remarkable. And he's got the same use of ERS as TF Max as well. And Bourbon Boy now getting past Stefano as well. But he's got to be careful. He's lost the DRS to Cypher here. And these guys fighting this hard is only going to lose them more time. They've got to be careful of this now. Because Bourbon Boy's got to close down that gap and get them back into DRS. And Wilson certainly will be wanting them to keep in this train for his championship.
This is nuts right now. Stefano trying to find a way back, but Wilson looking like the more likely to overtake. Let's look at it from Wilson's point of view. He's made Stefano go defensive. He's going round the outside. That is a cracking move if he can pull it off, but he can't. Stefano keeps his car up the inside, and Wilson a little bit further off now. Because of that, Smokey up into the points, like you mentioned a bit earlier on. It's a cracking start from him, up 10 places, but he's been helped by a few drivers having a coming together. Dezo and Jabraka and Joachim all fighting away. Oh, they're 2 AI'd cars, so that's why he's managed to get through pretty quickly. Let's go back up to the top. Stefano has caught back up. Bourbon Boy has caught back up, but Scyther, I don't want to say it's quite regular. This early into a race, he does seem to struggle with keeping up with the drivers ahead, but he always comes into this race.
Yeah, just keep a close eye on this Jerry and Markadoff battle. It is not looking too pretty between these two. Markadoff and and Jerry just completely cut the corner there, and they're really having an aggressive battle on our hands here, and Markinov seems a bit scared to even make the overtake, and oh my god, Jerry breaking a bit early there, and Markinov nearly went into the back of him. It's very, very feisty between these two on this track. They definitely don't seem to be getting along whatsoever at this moment in time. Between the Talent Factory driver and the TF10, so keep an eye on these two. It's getting very, very feisty, and the elbows are certainly getting out.
Definitely is, and Dezo F1 getting past both of them as well between all that. And this is, look how close it is, side by side between the two TF and the TF10 drivers. It's going to be closed door, and the McLaren's trying to keep his car up there, and Venom trying to get himself back through this as well. And it is nut stuff at the moment. This is crazy, right? Because I think the Red Bull is going to go for it.
Yeah, the Red Bull's going to get both of them here. Watch, it's an easy switchback, and Venom will say thank you very much. These two are so focused on each other, they don't even see Venom coming, and that's going to be him up into P12, and that is what you call smart driving there from Venom. He's picked them off brilliantly there, and there's nothing they can do about it. Markinov is going to try and fight this back, but there's nothing really he can do. Venom leaves the door open, but that's what you call really smart driving, and these two really need to sort out their issues because they're only losing more places.
Yeah, let's have a look at the tyres, people. Markinov's obviously on the faster compound tyre, but it's not showing at the moment. But everyone else in the top 12 is on a hard set. I mean, we obviously don't have as much information about tyre strategy here as we would on other circuits, but we know it's going to be likely a hard to medium one stop. That's the bog standard for an F1 2022 track, really. And though we don't know much about the undercut or the overcut here, do we? We can know off previous seasons, but we don't know from this game as much.
Yeah, exactly, and it's going to be quite intriguing to see how this all really certainly unfolds. Remember, there is rain forecasted to hit the end, so could we see some people try and nurse their tyres all the way to when that rain hits? I doubt it, because the tyres certainly will just fall off a cliff when the rain is expected to hit. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see how this battle's all unfolding at the front. Choco really is applying that pressure to Rusty, but he can't seem to get really close enough for a move to really line up. But he's got good battery. How's Choco? 95% to Rusty's 87. So keep a close eye on that. We could see a move from Choco sooner rather than later. But as well as that, Cypher and Jensen seem to struggle a little bit here to keep up the pace of the two front runners.
Yeah, it feels like it's only a matter of time before the DRS is broken between the front two and the rest of the grid. But all of a sudden, Rusty's deployed a perfect amount, and it's 0.7 of a second again, and Choco's struggling through this area. Maybe Choco is more of a cornering setup. It got that downforce to those areas, while Rusty is going for straight line speed.
Yeah, Wilson just made the move on Stefano, but Stefano's not giving this up without a fight, and Wilson just shuts the door on him perfectly there, and a bit of lag from the Alpine, and I think he'll go and try and fight this back now. And he's made a mistake on the final corner there, so settle the Alpine, and that's going to be that for that battle for now. But Wilson now up into P6. This is good damage limitation for the Red Bull. But one driver who's yet to make some moves after his fantastic start is Smokey. He's really struggled to get past the TF driver of Max in P9. So keep a close eye on these guys, because Smokey's got a bit of a challenge on his hands if he's going to want to get further up the grid.
Yeah, he was helped out early doors, but it's all not going his way from that point of view. We haven't really spoken about a safety car yet either, Ryan, yet. It is a possibility here. If a safety car does come out, then, you know, the likes of maybe Jabraka, Joachim and Nimir have all got a possibility of going on the hards, while everyone else, if it's early enough, go out obviously onto a set of mediums, but then they're going to be dying towards the end, and it doesn't look like the mediums are that much quicker than the hards.
Yeah, exactly that, and it is quite interesting to see. And Cypher I think, got the DRS there off Jensen, but he is really struggling in the Aston Martin. He does not want to use any of his battery, and he's fallen out of that DRS range, and he has not got the DRS, so he's going to have to use all that battery he's been working hard saving, and that's really going to cost him now. The Ferrari of Axe has spun, through Sector 2 there. That's a shame for him. But Cypher's got a big task on his hands. Aston Martin being a bit stubborn there, not using the RS, and he's cost himself. And there we go, Markadov getting past Venom now once again. And these guys have had a good battle, and the McLaren on those medium tyres still, you know, being able to put up a good fight with the guys on the hard runners. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. The mediums still haven't faded away just yet.
Definitely not. And I mean, that says it all, really, doesn't it? When Markados gets the fastest lap of the race to boot as well. And looking at it, it's interesting. You know, you don't really want to move away from the battle of the top 5 at the moment, especially with Scyther dropping outside of that DRS range. We could very well see here the top 2 running away and Jensen in a world of his own. To be honest, that's probably what Jensen wants as well. He probably wants to be where no one else can be involved with his car. At the moment, it's looking that way, and he would be really thrilled with the P3.
Exactly that. You know, Jensen's just doing a really good job at this moment in time, and you know, I think it'll do his confidence a world of good as well. You know, and having a lot of good results here in WR, and you know, if he gets a podium here, that would be a really, really good result for the Williams driver. But Cypher's done a good job to call back 3 attempts to get into that DRS now of Jensen, so maybe this train forms up once again. But if you're Bourbon Boy as well, I think he really needs to start trying to get closer to Cypher and really start to make him uncomfortable, because at the minute Cypher's getting away with it, and if you put him under some pressure, force him to start going for some moves on Jensen, it could get really interesting for this battle for P3.
Time will tell, but here comes Markados up the inside of Deso F1. He's leaving Deso F1 high and dry into the exit of turn 14, deploying as much battery as possible, but he's only got 3%. It's going to be a bit of a struggle for the McLaren driver for the remainder of this race. He's the fastest man on the track again, but that's going to change soon enough.
Yeah, he's flying at this moment in time, and it's really surprising considering he's fighting everybody as well. So to be able to keep putting these fast laps really just shows the pace of the field at the minute. I don't think really the leaders are pushing that hard, considering that they've got such clean air, and neither Rusty or Choco seem to be using any of the ERS at this moment in time. So really at the minute it just seems like a game of chess to me. Once one makes a move, maybe the other will try and counter it, but it's really quite interesting to see nobody really has made an inch on the other. It's really just a stalemate at this moment in time for the front runners. And you know, Wilson as well, he's not really been able to close up to Bourbon Boy ever since he's got past Stefano. So the Red Bull driver certainly is struggling a little bit around here. Yeah,
it's an interesting concept that we're seeing in front of our eyes. Let's go on board with Choco. He's still got so much battery, but so is Rusty. The one that's struggling is Jensen and Scyther with their battery right now. Is a yellow flag, and that looks like Markados has spun on the exit turn 13. You mentioned it in the qualifying. It looks like it's happened, that someone's just put the power down too soon.
Yeah, it's just the wizardry mind of Ryan talking there, and it came true. So yeah, it wouldn't be surprised if that's not the first of many to come here. I think, you know, there's a few drivers definitely going to be pushing that limits, and I think one driver who's really starting to, you know, get really aggressive is Cypher. He's really starting to push the track limits more now, because I think he is struggling to really keep with Jensen, because when you're on that bubble of 1 second, it's not nice to really be on that bubble, because you really want to be comfortable. You want to be where Choco is. You want to be in that 5 temps area, 6 temps. So you know if you make a little mistake, you can still stick within that DRS, where Cypher's constantly now on the limit. Just try and just stay in the DRS, let alone, you know, be comfortable in it.
Yeah, it's teetering on the edge at the moment. This is where he looks a little bit stronger, but he doesn't have the slipstream, as Joachim, I think, has made a mistake as well, or maybe he's just been passed brilliantly. But this middle sector, he gets a little bit of time back on the drivers ahead, but is it going to be enough? Let's look at on board. He sees the William in his in his grasp, really. But I wonder when Rusty decides enough's enough and he starts to push that little bit more. Choco's going to be the same, and they just pull away from this.
Yeah, exactly. And Cyra's now got past Stefano, because Stefano dropped out the DRS of Wilson. So there we go. I told you to keep a close eye on Syra, and he's making moves now. I think if there's one driver who'd be worried, it will be Wilson now that Syra's behind him after their incident last week due to a little bit of desync. I'm sure he'll be frantically checking his mirrors and hoping that Syra does not get into that DRS range, because then Wilson will be all under kind of pressure, that he will not be able to probably cope with, knowing that the Brazilian driver is going to be really looking to make a move on him, because Syra is flying and his straight line speed around here is quite scary.
Is ahead, but I wonder if, you know, Syra and Wilson can capitalise on this. But Syra's straight line speed, he's already pulling away from Stefano.
That's just the pace of Syra at the minute. Stefano's certainly struggling, seems to me, with grip more than anything. And Smokey is doing what I said I think he would have done. He's just being patient and he's waiting for mistakes, because, you know, Max in front of him has got a good amount of VRS, but I think he's relying on Max to start to make some moves now and really start to pick them off. And this is what's going to happen. Smokey's done really, really well to get to P10 so early on. And I think he'll be very, very happy with the way the race has been going for him. And I think Max is now going to make the move on Stefano. He is. Down the inside goes the Aston Martin, a little bit too late on the brakes. And there we go. Smokey could get Max here, and this could be huge for his race. Gets on the power. He's going to try and go around the outside. No, he thinks better off it. And Max broke quite early as well. No switchback opportunity there for Smokey, but he actually did. And that's a great move there from Smokey. Max just had nothing to answer for. Didn't get on the power early enough. That's Smokey now up into P9.
This is nuts. Cracking driving from Smokey, but Max trying to get himself back into that. Jerry Van Bussel getting past Fabi in the background as well. But Smokey, like you said, he's having to bide his time a little bit. But any points he can pick up tonight, it's going to be crucial.
Exactly that. And, you know, it's like I said with Wilson at Imola, getting that 1 point could be huge for the championship. Considering how close this is, 1 point could be the difference between winning this championship and losing it. It is that close after possibly this round between these guys. So, you know, him getting even P8 will be a great result for Smokey. And he will be now getting past Stefano on this straight. And he's going to have to use a lot of the battery now, and he hasn't got a lot to play with. But he's going to have to use it to get back within the DRS of Syra, who's doing a very good job and is closing up to the back of Wilson. But again, seems to me these guys are all struggling a little bit with the ERS now, and it seems to me Jensen and Bourbon Boy certainly are struggling, because look at their battery usage, it's not looking too good. And there we go, Smokey up into P8 now.
Nice and easy move there from Smokey. Syra looking very, very quick. And I say nice and easy, it looked like Smokey went a little bit deep into 14 and it cost him a little bit of time. It's 1.7 seconds between him and the leading pack. But if anyone's going to be able to bring that gap back down, it is going to be the championship leader. But Syra is looking quick as well. Bourbon Boy dropping a little bit of time. Stefano and Max side by side through turn 1 to 3 here. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yes, really good battling between the two of them, and Stefano just parked his car brilliantly there, and Max has had nothing to answer with. Is he going to go for a little feint to the inside? He is, and he's all a bit moving there in the braking zone, but that was quite nicely defended there from Stefano. Nothing too bad, but then Max is going to try and get the switch back and get a better launch off the corner. There's a bit of contact between the two, and Stefano really was getting the elbows out there. And oh my goodness me, Max has lost the car on the curb. So commonly done there. That's a costly error, which is going to lose him a lot of time, and it's going to lose him DRS now.
Yeah, and I think it's cost to Stefano time DRS as well. That's how and that is how crucial this is for this track is DRS, and I think he's just snicked it back in. PSR Nick, the fastest man on the track. He's decided to go onto a set of softs just to, well, do Nick things, I guess is the best way to describe it. But I don't think Stefano's DRS is going to open. Yep, it's not going to down the back straight. Smokey is going to have a little bit of... Oh, no, it does open, sorry. So Smokey will still have a little bit of a respite, but he's not going to be able to catch too much ahead. Syra struggling a little bit now. This is not something we've seen from Syra in this race is a little bit of struggle. He's not catching Wilson as quickly as as he has been the other drivers.
Yeah, it's just in this stalemate now, and I think Wilson now needs to apply the pressure to Bourbon because he's on that uncomfortable bubble which Cypher was originally in, but now Cypher's managed to pick up the slipstream, so he's seeming a little bit more comfortable now, only 7 tenths behind Jensen. So yeah, I think now is the time for Wilson to really apply the pressure to Bourbon and make that move stick. He's got to do it sooner rather than later, because once he gets past Bourbon, he can then start to do some mind games possibly on his championship rival as well of Cypher here. So keep that in mind. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye out on. But interestingly, though, is Syra is losing a little bit of ground to Wilson, but he's pulling away from Smokey. Smokey is in a little bit of trouble. Not having anything, this is nuts for Smokey right now. He could be in trouble, and 8th place could be the best he could get.
Yeah, I think that will be it for Smokey at this moment in time. I think the pit stops will be a big talking point in this race. In terms of will he go for an undercut, or will he hope for an overcut and maybe a safety car could bail him out? Who knows how that will all go down. But yeah, I think a safety car is probably needed for a lot of these drivers in terms of just their battery. And maybe even their strategy as well, in terms of how their tyres are really hanging on as well at this point in time. But Wilson, I think, is really, struggling as well. He's really not making inroads, but Syra is the first to come into the pit, and he's going for the undercut here.
Because they have yet to use their ARS, these two. And, well, obviously they've used it, but nowhere near as much as everyone else. But Syra, then, that pit has causing him, 2.9 seconds between PSR Wilson and PSR Smokey. Smokey's in that little bit of trouble. This isn't ideal for him right now. And, but still, yet nothing from Rusty or Choco to indicate that they're really pushing for it and they're going to stay out a couple of more laps.
Yeah, it's really interesting in terms of how this will play out, because I think once Wilson starts to use his battery more, if you see him use it down this straight, I think that'll be a key indication that he will be pitting. Or, if he decides to just stick behind Bourbon Boy, I think, he'll just be comfortable. But I think it's quite interesting now because you can just see the wear on the front right of Bourbon Boy's tyres starting to really degrade quite heavily, and that's really why he's starting to struggle, because look how close Wilson now is. 3 tenths is the closest Wilson has been. So I think this will be the lap now that Bourbon Boy surely has to come into the pits, because his tyres are literally on their last legs, I think, at this moment in time. And no, he decides to stay out, and it's Wilson that comes in. Interesting.
It's a pit from Jensen as well. Wilson and Jensen pit. I think Wilson is covering off Syra. I think that's a wise move from him as well. Let's go on board with the AlphaTauri driver as he rounds turns 14 and 15 into the pits then for 3 drivers. Jensen, Stefano and Wilson are in the pits, and Syra coming around the final corner. He's got to see that. Where is that Red Bull? Is he going to get it? He is. Surely he's going to get past the Red Bull. He has, and that is not ideal for Wilson.
No, he will not be happy with that one, I'll tell you that now. And wow, that's a great strategy call from Syra. But remember, having the better tyres around China is huge. I'll tell you that now, because if you have bad tyre wear, it's not going to be too comfortable for Syra coming towards the end of this race. And he certainly will be struggling for grip as well, because Choco did say after the crossplay team tournament event in WOR, his tyres were a lot worse compared to Cypher's because of the pad and the wheel difference. So keep that in mind, that the traction and all that other elements of the pad will have probably a worse effect around China compared to Wilson, who's on the wheel. So come towards the end of this race, it could get really feisty between these two. And Wilson is not into the DRS, and that is going to be absolutely huge for this race as well, because now, down this straight, he's going to lose so much time, and he's going to have to use some of that battery if he wants to stick in front of the likes of, maybe even undercut, both Bourbon Boy and maybe even Cypher here.
Bourbon Boy leads this Grand Prix. I've been waiting to say that for a little while. He is stayed out, but he is leading this Grand Prix. TF Max is leading, is stayed out as well. Rusty, Choco, the leaders pit. But I think Scyther could be in trouble. I've stayed on board. Actually, let's go on board with Jensen as he hurtles down the start-finish straight. Where is Rusty? There is Rusty. Is he going to go around the outside? He's trying it. It's side-by-side through turn 1. It's side-by-side through turn 2. I don't think Rusty's got enough grip. Rusty's behind Jensen. Jensen is the net leader of this Grand Prix.
Huge move there from Jensen. You could just see the cold tyres on Rusty. He just could not turn that car. He had to go all the way down to second just to get that front nose turned in. And then we go silent down the inside of Choco. Oh my goodness me, that's contact and possibly even front wind damage from one of these drivers. That was huge contact. And they could even lose the DRS here. And Choco will not be happy with that one whatsoever. But you know who will be happy is Wilson, because he's now comfortably within that DRS of Syra and Choco now. So I think Wilson would be very, very happy that Syra made that move just then.
Rusty outside of the DRS of Jensen as well. This is going to be crucial. Is he going to cross the line into... Oh, he might. You know, he might get DRS. And that could be crucial for his attack and get the tyres warmed back up. He's obviously going to get the better tyre life. But Jensen is in the net lead of this Grand Prix. It's not something we've said in a while at all. Bourbon Boy surely pitting now. He is. There he is, the Ferrari driver entering the pit lane. You can see in the background, Ciro and Wilson looking like they're going to get some action getting together, but nothing at this moment in time. Max stays out. Jerry Van Bussel stays out, but he picks up a 3-second time penalty for that final corner, which we've not spoken about yet, but that can be an absolute pain. Looking down this start-finish straight, this is incredible, really. Just how close these drivers are, and Rusty back into the swing of things. He's got to use some of that ERS now.
Yeah, he does, and I think he'll be playing a game again, wants a game of chess with Rusty and Jensen now, because this is going to be very, very close come to the end of this race. And I think Choco will be really, really frustrated now. He's that third man in the train. He wants to be where Rusty is. He wants to be in second place, so he can dictate when he wants to make that move. Because now he's got a really tough task on his hands to get past Rusty, and I wonder if he'll be able to do that. He has got a little bit of an ERS advantage over him as well, nearly 20% more, so that's going to be a big turn in this story. And I wonder if Syra will let Wilson pass here, because, you know, he is starting to fall back from Choco.
An interesting conundrum in all this is if Jerry doesn't pit, he could be obviously leading this Grand Prix, but he could be a rolling roadblock. If Rusty then manages to get past at a stage, or Jensen gets past at the stage and then Rusty can't, this is an interesting one to watch out for. Does he stay out or does he go into the pits? Time will tell. Choco getting very close to the back end of the Haas of Rusty. He's almost pushing that Haas around that final corner, but it hasn't, thankfully, no damage to either car. Rusty's trying to, well, just monitor everything at the moment, but Max and Jerry yet to pit.
Yeah, and I think you made a brilliant point there. I think Jerry is going to make a really big impact on this race now, because look at him, he's struggling so much, he can't even get the car turned in for turn 1 there. It's taken so much less apex speed compared to Jensen there. So it's really fascinating to see how this is all unfolding between these two guys. And Rusty, I think, is going to hope that Jensen does not get past at a point where Rusty can't follow. Because look at that now, you can just see he's just struggling to get the car turned in, he's struggling to get on the power, just getting all out of shape on the exit there as well. So this is going to be huge for Jensen's race now, because if Rusty gets past at a point where he does not lose any time, Jensen is going to be so vulnerable to Rusty. And there we go, we're seeing huge effects of this now. Look at that, he's been absolutely backed up into the rear of Rusty, and now he won't want to overtake Jerry, because he will lose the DRS and it'll be an easy move for Rusty. But this could be possibly now 3 wide on the exit here of turn 13. Watch and learn how this all unfolds now.
Let's look at it from Rusty's point of view as they turn around the corner. It's nice and straight. Defensive from Jerry. It is just super defensive from him. Jensen's actually saving ERS as they come down the start-finish straight. Choco's miles away. What does Rusty do? He has to make the move. He can't. It's side by side ahead of him. It's not a switchback on opportunity for the Haas. He's being caught up with an incident, and there goes Choco. Choco's through past Rusty, and Jerry has caused absolute nightmare because Rusty's around.
Oh my goodness me, that is going to be huge for the championship now. Rusty down to P10, and that is him out of contention now for any big points from this race. This is unbelievable stuff. My oh my, I did not expect to see Jerry was going to be such a big factor in this race, but he's decided to be one. And my oh my, and he's retired from the race as well. Oh my goodness me, controversy at its finest. And my oh my, you know, Wilson, Cypher will all be very happy, you know, and their championship rival is not going to score any big points.
This is huge, but out of all this, TF Max still leads this Grand Prix. Is he waiting for a safety car? Because if he is doing a fantastic job of it. 6.6 seconds between him and Jensen. Jensen then, obviously, net lead of this Grand Prix. Syra is... Wow, Wilson's behind... We've missed a bit of action, but this is interesting nonetheless. Rusty in 10th place. It's cost him massively. This is surely his chance for the title out the window.
Yeah, Martin has put it best in the chat. The system has certainly been shocked in this race because I did not expect to see that happening. I did manage to catch the move on Cypher and Wilson. Cypher just made an easy move down the main straight into turn 14, into this hairpin. He just had the battery compared to Wilson. That was simply it. He was just able to utilize it. He's been saving that battery since he's pitted. Remember, he's also got a fresher amount of tires as well compared to everybody else on the grid. He did stay out that lap longer. So yeah, he's looking in a very good state of mind right now. As Cypher, he's looking a bit more comfortable than he was earlier on. So keep this in mind. You know, Cypher can potentially steal a win here. But it all depends how this all unfolds. Choco could get his first win of the season here.
Well, we're saying about Choco getting the first big win of the season. It could be Jensen as well. Jensen has played every part of this incredible, but he's just got to hold on. 8.5 laps remaining for him. Choco into a great position, but I mean, I'd love to look back at that incident because it has cost someone a title.
Yeah, I think, you know, that, you know, there was an incident at Abu Dhabi. It was exactly like that. Rusty was the driver that Jerry was. He was stuck out on old tyres, and he caused an incident where Wilson, you know, got wing damage, but also Cypher also got spun around. So I think that's, you know, it comes around. What comes around goes around, unfortunately, in league racing, and that is unfortunate what's just happened to Rusty, and that's nothing he could have done. He made a clean move, and he was just so unfortunate to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for Jerry going into the pits, and Jerry obviously miscalculated, and Choco getting tapped on the rear there from Syra. Syra is looking really, really quick right now, and he's really starting to vamp up the pressure on Choco.
PSR Nick has somehow spun it at turn 7, but Sierra is really on a charge. He's turned up the wick. He feels he could get his first victory in WOR cosplay tier 1. And I mean, you know what? With his straight line speed, it's definitely in with a shout. Nick still having troubles. I wonder if he's got a puncture because 10 laps on softs here is quite a distance. But TF Max still yet to pit, and he's not, to be honest. Okay, it's about a second a lap slower. He is still, he's not that slow.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Max, and he's doing a great job out there. You know, remember when he spun through this middle sector, got on the curbs, and Rusty's made a nice move down Stefano. I think Stefano just let him through there, unless he made a mistake. And there's a McLaren who's gone off of Nick again, and he is going to be lapped in this race. He's got beached on the curb. He's punctured his rear left tyre. And that is Nick just doing what Nick does best, just trying to be a comedian, I suppose. But yeah, Max is really in an interesting position. Remember, we are expecting rain. So, when is that rain meant to be hitting? And I think that is what Max is banking on here. That is surely what he's hoping for. But he's got to be careful now that his tyres do not end up like Nick's, and he gets spun round.
But that's Luke's saying there's no rain. Oh. So I wonder if there was a a false message to us in the chat. And if there was, then these guys, they don't deserve any Easter eggs for the rest of their lives. Anyway, Jocko with a great chance with winning this race, says Sav Legend. I mean, I think there would be a fair few people that would like to see YI Choco win this Grand Prix. But I think there's also a lot of people that would like to see Shizu Jensen win this Grand Prix, or V. Syra, or Sider himself. There goes a retiree, are both McLaren drivers from this Grand Prix. On lap 22 of 28, Ryan, who's going to win this one?
I think it is going to be Choco, simply because he's just got that ERS advantage. You know, a lot of people do want Syra to win because he's such a OG driver in this community. You know, he's been around since before I was even in this community. You know, just looking back to some classic races, you know, Syra's done it all. He's won it all. So it's quite interesting. He's one of the greatest pad drivers, I think, off this game. So if Syra is able to win this, it'll be a great, great story. To say that he's managed to win on every single game would be a remarkable achievement. So yeah, it's interesting to see if Syra can pull it off. He's really pushing hard. But now we've got Cypher, who's going to possibly spoil the party. He's going to go down the inside. He's the Aston Martin. He's going to force him off the track. But Cypher's going to hang it around the outside. Nothing he can do about it. The Aston Martin gets in front, and he's up into P3 now. Could he possibly spoil Choco's party off this race win? And now Cypher's unfortunately got a 3-second time penalty.
So frustrating for Syra there. I don't think he was really expecting the move from Sider either, and that is Sider back up into P4. What is TF Max doing? This is incredible. Jensen doing a fantastic job as well. Maybe Jensen this time can use Max as his getaway vehicle, or the man that is in the way, so he can be the getaway vehicle. We will wait and see. I see there's a fair few people saying that there was no rain mentioned. If you look back in the CPTF T1 chat, people were asking about rain and saying that there was rain at the end. So just defending myself and Ryan right now. But Choco looking like he wants this race victory. Jensen looking like he wants this race victory. When does Jensen decide to really go fully at Max? Because you know what? Last time it didn't work.
Yeah, and Max is defending this as well. He's using all his battery as well down this main straight. So Max is doing the exact same thing as Jerry. These two have just decided to become a roadblock, and this could cost Jensen a race win here. And oh my goodness me, look at him. He can't even make the corner. He's got that little grip, and he's really, really struggling now. Is Max? And I wonder if he's going to get a puncture, because surely it's only a matter of time before this Aston Martin is ending up spun round somewhere. And here we go. Jensen's now going to make the move. He's using all his battery, going to the outside line, and Max is defending this as hard as he can. And there we go. He's parked his car brilliantly. He's going to try and go down the inside as Jensen. No way was there a gap for Jensen. He's going to have to concede this position. But this talent factory driver is making him work for it. And this is an unbelievable defense here from Max. And now Jensen's used all his battery while Choco's got 68%. And it's going to be an aggressive dive to the inside. Max is going to make it difficult. Is Choco going to go through? Possibly. No, he's not. It's going to be a drag race between the two of them. Jensen just gets in front. And there we go. Now Max decides to get out the way. Has he got a puncher finally? No, it just looks like he wanted to cause some problems there for Jensen.
How much is Luke paying TF Max for that? Well, I really want to know, because that is some incredible defensive driving from TF Max. Wow, Shizu Jensen is in a world of pain. He had to make the move to try and cause TF Max to be a roadblock, and it has not worked. All of a sudden, Shizu are under a huge amount of pressure in Jensen, and here comes Choco. He's going to the inside into turn 14, and Choco leads this Grand Prix. Sider and Wilson, my goodness, are all in this battle as well, and all of a sudden Bourbon Boy's got himself back into this.
Yeah, this, in my opinion, is Choco's race to lose here. If he is not able to win this, I don't think we'll ever see him win another race in our lifetime. Because, you know, this is where true drivers are made if they can handle this pressure now. He unfortunately wasn't able to handle it last time around Abu Dhabi when he was on for a certain race win. Well, not a certain race win, but he was on for a very good chance of a win. So, you know, this is where Choco's, you know, destiny really could be fulfilled for getting a win here at China. But let's see how this all plays out. We've still got a few laps left to go. Will Jensen be able to pull something out of his, you know, sleeve and really just pull out a trick which can really put Choco under pressure? But look at that, Choco just pulling away through this middle sector already. 5/10 is the gap, and he needs to keep extending it through this middle sector if he wants to, you know, keep this lead.
Let's see what happens, but I'm going to say this now. Rusty still has a part to play in this championship. He's 1.1 seconds behind Smokey. He has been faster. Can he help? Will he help PSR Wilson out and cause another driver to be in front of Smokey, causing him to get less points? My goodness, there's still so much to play for with so little laps here in China. This Shanghai circuit usually it's a little bit weaker than what we've seen tonight, but it's caused an absolute stir. And it's not over yet. 3 laps remaining. Choco leads this Grand Prix, but Jensen wants this race victory.
Yeah, he does. He's not going to give this up without a really good fight. And I wonder, you know, if Cypher can get involved, because he's really, really close. 25% on the ERS as well. Syra is really struggling, and Wilson just can't get close to Syra. And remember, they both did do the undercut, and their tyres will be worse than everybody in front of them. Remember, they pitted a lap before, you know, everybody around them. So Wilson's certainly struggling. Jensen as well. He pitted the same lap as Wilson. So Choco does have the tyre advantage as well, and the ERS. So it's all in favour of Choco here. But the only driver who can really, I'd say, challenge is Cypher. But he is also struggling as well. Just made a huge mistake, and Wilson got really close to the back of Syra there.
Yeah, Wilson was desperate. He went up the inside of turn 6, and it wasn't happening. Syra is struggling a little bit. And we're talking about tyre wear. Could we see an unlikely victory from Bourbon Boy? He's in P6. He's on the youngest tyres, mediums out there. I usually curse drivers when I say that. He's got 2.5 laps to prove me right. Let's see what he can do. Keep an eye out for him. Obviously, Syra with that 3-second time penalty is going to cost him big time. Rusty and Smokey are getting to the back end of this one as well. What can happen?
Here we go. Bourbon Boy's going to make this move on Wilson. 1.5 tenths. He's going to surely dive to the inside. He's close enough. Will he go for it? He is. Down the inside, and Wilson's turned in on him a little bit there. Oh, fair game for the pair though. That's that tyre advantage. 2-lap pressure is absolutely huge, and that's a big move there from Bourbon Boy and for this championship, because now Wilson and Smokey are right next to each other, and that's huge for this championship, because now the points that have been lost for Smokey is so minimal that it's going to have no effect really on his championship. And now Cypher really has got to make a move on and try and get into this P2 position. The more points he can gain now, the better, because all of his rivals have had an absolute horror show here tonight at China. So yeah, this is a huge opportunity now for Cypher to really, really get back into this into this championship fight.
The penultimate lap here in Shanghai has been, well, we are on it now, but this race in Shanghai has been absolutely nuts. Wilson now behind Bourbon Boy. Bourbon Boy is going to attack Syra, I'm sure, down that back straight. Jensen, I wonder how much ERS he saved if he can attack Choco. Choco has, I'm certain, one hand on this race victory, but Cyther, I'm sure, is going to have something to say about it. Jensen will have something to say about it. We'll have to wait and see. Rusty's not been able to catch back up to the back of it either. Axe is the fastest man on track. He's obviously on a set of softs to boot with it as well. Ryan, this has been a fantastic race, and we've still got 1 lap to go.
Yeah, it's been a great Chinese Grand Prix. I think not many people expected it to go this way, but you know, when we have people all over the place in qualifying, it really does cause drama like this, and it's really, you know, gone over my expectations for this race. And now we're on to the final lap of this race. Surely this is Choco's race to lose now. He's on the final lap. He hasn't got many he's got a few more, well, a lot more corners left to go, but in his mind, he's just got to keep this car on the track, and it's going to be his first ever WRT1 win.
11 corners for Choco. He's just gone through turn 5. Into turn 6 he comes. Wow, this has been a crazy one. Sider is, well, he's sizing up Jensen. That's the only way really to describe it, but I don't think he's going to have enough time. Choco is doing actually an incredible job, I think, of just keeping Jensen within DRS and ERS range and slipstream range, but enough for him to pull away. So all he can worry about is winning this Grand Prix. Sider is getting close again, but I don't think it's going to be enough down through into turn 11. It isn't. But there's this long back straight, and Sider is going to throw everything. He's going to throw the kitchen sink. He's going to throw an extra couple of tyres at Jensen to try and get the move done. Let's look at it from his point of view. He's gaining. Sider surely is going to move to the inside of Jensen. Jensen, well, I said at the beginning of the Grand Prix, should be happy with P3. I think he's going to be happy nonetheless, but he's going to fight this into turn 14, into turn 15. They're still side by side. This is crazy stuff from the two of them. But Jensen has held on, but I'm going to go on board with this man who's finally won this season. It's Choco that wins the Chinese Grand Prix. And wow, what a way to end it. Jensen will come home in second and Sider in third. Incredible. There is no other words to describe it.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable race, and Choco will be over the moon with that one. And to get his first ever win and have that disappointing round at Abu Dhabi, that will do his confidence the world of good. You know, that's a great result, but, you know, Cypher will be kicking himself for that mistake into that hairpin, holding it in third gear. He really should have short shifted up to fourth. He could have gotten that power a little bit earlier otherwise. And I think that would be a mistake he'll look back on, which could cost him, you know, in this championship, because second place could have gained him a few more points, which could be huge in this championship fight.
Whew. Wow. What? How do we describe that? If we had 3 words to describe that Grand Prix, Ryan, how would we do it?
I don't think you can. It's just like drama, excitement, and just overall entertaining. Because from start to finish, it really was just art in a way. Because it's just like it's like a cinema piece in terms of how much drama they really decided to turn out to be. I was really not expecting as much as we got. But obviously, the two drivers who decided not to pit, of Jerry and Max, really made that more entertaining than what it really should have been. And I think Jensen will not be too happy, because I think, you know, that maybe that cost him the win here today.
Well, there's 2 drivers that have had drivers on older lap tyres costing them something tonight. I think that is the best way to describe it. I mean, the game has given driver of the day to Smokey. I mean, it was an incredible drive from 20th. But do you fully agree with that?
Yeah, I think, you know, since it's his first ever win, I'd give it to Choco. The way he was just so calculated throughout that race, from start to finish, and he just literally didn't really make any mistakes. He was calm, he was calculated, and he didn't put a foot wrong. So yeah, I'd either give it to Smokey or Choco. But since it's his first ever win in Tier 1, I think I've got to give it to Choco. But nevertheless, Smokey obviously listened to me pre-race, listened to my advice, kept out of trouble, and he got rewarded with P6, and that was an unbelievable drive from him as well.
Whew. Wow. Okay. Choco, Jensen and Sider are your podium sitters tonight. First, second and third. In that order, 4th is Bourbon Boy, so close to the podium as well. 5th is PSR Wilson. Smokey in 6th place there. And Wilson not gaining too many points off Smokey, but Sider gaining a few more. Syra in 7th, 8th to Rusty, 9th to Venom, and Stefano rounding out the top 10 and the point scoring position. Then there was Dezo F1, Axe, Joachim Jabraka, and Naheem with Max, Nick, Jerry Van Bussel, Fabi, and Markados all retiring from the session. And hopefully we'll get to speak to someone tonight. It'll be nice to have a word, but let's talk a little bit more about Smokey, and you know how at the beginning of this race, after qualifying, before the race, when the chips were down, he was pretty much out, but he fought, and he got into a really good place.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great job from him, and you know, I think there's many drives like that tonight. I think one driver will be a bit disappointed and angry is Wilson. And you can see it, or obviously nobody else can see it bar me and you in the chat. He's not too happy with Bourbon Boy apparently doing a push to pass move, and I think he'll be inquiring that one to the steward. So yeah, it's not looking, and I think Wilson's season's really just been summed up on that. Because he's just had a lot of misfortune, unfortunately, this season, and it seems to really have cost him. And but that's how racing goes sometimes. You can't always have it your own way. And I think if it means he doesn't win this championship, but he does, if he wins the championship challenges, I'm sure he'll take that. So yeah, I think he shouldn't beat himself up over a race in China. He didn't seem to be the strongest, unfortunately, here. But he can dust himself down and come back again next week at Silverstone. So I'm sure he'll be fine.
If we look at that move, unfortunately I don't have the clip, but from memory, and I don't know what angle you were looking at the time, did it look like a push to pass?
I didn't see it when I was on board either, so I think it might have just been a desync issue again. I think, yeah, that's just been the problem of this game. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, their connections, I think it's more EA and Codemasters than it is actually people's connections to each other. So, hopefully next game we'll have a bit better server, so we don't have to have these issues where stuff like this keeps happening.
Okie doke. So we're going to have our first driver here with us tonight, and that is Jensen for his podium finish. And Ryan, I'll head over to you for this one.
Yeah, Jensen. That was quite a thrilling race in the end. Take me through qualifying as well at the start there. It was quite an interesting one. Did you think maybe provisionally you might have had a chance of pole when you beat Cypher at the time, I think, or Rusty, by just about 1,000th of a second? You kept that trend going. Take me through that qualifying. It was quite a dramatic one.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I was shaking at the end of the lap, so probably lost a tenth in a hairpin. But I mean, in the end, P7. It was like the best qualifying of the season, so I was happy already with that. And yeah, obviously it could have been better, but in the end, it was better than, say, PSGL, where I only got on the back, I only set my banker, and that's where I ended up.
Yeah, so take me through that race as well. I think we'll have that big talking point, obviously, the Aston Martin of Max staying out and blocking you towards the end there. Just take me through that and what was going through your head, because it must have been incredibly frustrating not being able to get past that Aston Martin.
Yeah, I was enjoying, it was a good race, enjoying the race up until that point. I mean, Jerry was doing exactly the same, staying out to try and block. I 100% believe they're not staying out to wait for a safety car. They both had penalties, and there was literally pointless trying to defend at that point. So it was obviously tactics to try and ruin my race. So in the end, he let everyone else through, and yeah, I had to use about probably 30% to try and get past Max there, and I couldn't get past at the start, the first couple straights. So I just had to send it on him, and yeah, a bit annoyed in the end there. But I mean, Choco had he was absolutely insane with the ERS saving, so you can't really predict it. I think Choco could still could have easily won that, but you can't really, I don't know, you can't really see the different scenario of it.
Yeah, and just take me through that final lap as well. You had Cypher right behind you, really flying that pressure right towards the end. He had slightly a bit more ERS than you, and you defended that perfectly to the outside line. Just take me through that. That must have been a lot of pressure on your shoulders to hold on to that P2 to get a really, really good result.
Yeah, I've heard earlier on in the race it was about similar energy as me in the first stint, and if I saw it was going to end up at the same positions come near the end of the race, I knew it would probably be between both of us for the podium. But in the end, Rusty, I don't know what happened. I think Jerry definitely did something after the hairpin, but yeah, I didn't know how much he had going into the final lap, but I knew he was pushing all the way through the final lap, and then of course he had massive overspeed on the straight. But I just stuck to my gut and tried to go around the outside or keep around the outside, and in the end it worked. So yeah, that was really massive relief in the end. I mean, I still would have been happy even if I did get past, but P2 is, yeah, even more. You know, it's my first actual result this season. Like, I would count Baku, but to be honest, it was just through luck, really. This was like on pure pace. And yeah, it's something to be really happy with. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that result. Gareth, have you got anything else to say?
Yeah, Jensen, while you know, before the pit stop phase, you were running P3, and then you did this masterful undercut. Obviously, it kind of didn't work to your favour after some of the other drivers, but what made you decide that undercut for this race?
I mean, my tyre wear was pretty low. I was only like, let's say, yeah, I was only at 40% on the hard tyre, so I wasn't getting much deg at all. So I think I could have undercut as early as lap 12 if I wanted to. But I knew if you undercut, like if you did try an undercut, there's a chance the overcut would just be able to just about cover it off. So I don't know, I saw someone go in the pits before, or the lap before, so I decided to pit that lap, and in the end somehow managed to undercut Rusty and Choco. So yeah, I didn't expect. I thought I'd be like maintaining position. It was just to like try and keep a safe position, but in the end, I managed to make it work with dividends to me. And yeah, I think the rest is history in that race.
I mean, and lastly, I think you must be happy. I think it's only your second point scoring finish of the season, but when you score points, it's always in. Well, the two times you've done it, it's been in the top 4. So when you haven't been involved in incidents, it's looking good overall.
I think this season I think I struggled very much at the start, and of course struggled midway when adjusting to the new wheel. But I feel like I've finally adjusted to it. I might be able to actually compete more at the front once again, like the PlayStation seasons. But yeah, hopefully there's more of that, but can't really like say that will happen, because of course you see like all the races I do, I'll get absolutely murdered by someone like 90% of the time, so I don't know if I'm going to get any more results this season, but I'd be lucky to see another top 5 or something.
Well, it's great to see you up there. I know can also be take great credit, because you know the 2 times this season you've had good races, and it has been podiums when things haven't gone where things haven't affected you, when other drivers haven't affected you, or when other incidents haven't affected you. So it's great to see you in the podium position here tonight, and congratulations and good luck for your final 2 races of the season.
Thank you. Cheers for the comments as always, lads.
Cheers, Jensen. Right, Ryan is very close to us to saying goodbye for this one, and wow, what a Chinese Grand Prix! Could we have wished for this in our wildest dreams, really?
No, I don't think we could have. It's been a thrilling race, and I don't think we'll see one like it for a while, unless on the new game they decide to have China on it again. If they do, that would be quite good, but I doubt it. But either way, I'll be looking forward to it again. Hopefully on the new game it'll be, even more rewarding for drivers to make overtakes. So yeah, I'll be looking out for it if it is, but I don't think we'll see a race as good as that one at China for a very long time.
Right. I've just nudged my mic so Ryan can barely hear me now, I'm certain of it. But I mean, in qualifying, we were discussing how that time frame could very well have been the highlight of the race, but we were pleasantly surprised overall. But let's talk about qualifying just as a final bit. That was an incredible qualifying as well.
Yeah, that qualifying I don't think we'll see replicated at all for a very, very long time in terms of how close and competitive it was between everyone. It was remarkable. You know, at that start, remember, we just saw it was like separated between Rusty, Cypher, and I think it was Choco by 1,000th. You know, 609, 610, and then 611, and then went to 612 as well. It's just remarkably close, and I don't think we'll see anything like that ever again in terms of how close it was between this grid. And I think, you know, hopefully in the future we can see it, but, you know, I think China just, you know, it's brought out the best in these drivers.
Brought out the best and brought out the worst as well. Just to bring you last information as well, it is a 48-point gap between Smokey and Rusty. Rusty needs everything to go his way if he wants to win this championship. Cyther has a 39 points gap to Smokey. As things stand, obviously there is the possibility of steward inquiries to come through as well, I shall add. So again, another driver that needs everything to go his way. Someone that's a little bit better position than those two is Wilson. He's got a 28 gap point between the two of them. But if Wilson doesn't finish or doesn't finish well next week, he's lost the title as well. That is how close this season has been. And Smokey has done a fantastic job to bring himself back into it, hasn't he, Ryan?
Yeah, he's done a really good job. You know, from P20 to get P7, I think it was, or P6, was a really, really good drive from him. So he'll be very, very happy with that. You know, he's not doing challenges, unfortunately, too young. So yeah, this will be a really good thing to add to the resume for him if he's able to hold on to this championship.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, Ryan. This has been an absolute hell of a race, and it's been hell for some and heaven for others. But we've got 2 rounds remaining, Silverstone and Austria. 2 more tracks where controversy prevails and also great racing action. We will see you next week for the British Grand Prix, round 13. And you know what they say about the number 13. It is unlucky for some. We will wait to see if it is unlucky for Smokey. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next week.